Tonight in the BigFooty Blues podcast, we discuss last Friday night's loss to Collingwood. We discuss the upcoming game versus the Saints, and we take another walk on the boards to see what you're all saying. All that and more coming right up.
And welcome to episode 14 of the BigFooty Blues podcast. I'm ODN, the puppet figurehead. Just the one podcast this week due to time constraints and technical problems. Does the slackness of the host constitute a technical problem? I don't know. With me here in the BigFooty Blues executive offices, she's an enthusiastic problem solver, adept at negotiation and mediation. It's Senior Vice President of Motivational Speaking, Mebby.
Hello.
He's an early starter, but reckons he does his best work at night. It's Senior Vice President of Selective Productivity, Happydude.
That's a long-winded introduction.
Well, but it's very apt.
Yes, it is.
Oh, how are we, guys? Good?
Yeah,
Good.
pretty good now.
Look, we'll just launch into it. No, everybody's abandoned us tonight. There's no Shandog, there's no Bluebell, and we couldn't get a guest to come on if we paid them. So
Probably don't want to talk about the game we just sat through.
Yeah. I mean, we're all feeling a little bit drained by last week, but, the show goes on.
We must smell or something.
Well, speak for yourself.
Yeah, I definitely don't smell, so that's not the issue.
Last Friday night at the MCG, Carlton 10-10-70 went down to Collingwood 14-20-104. Carlton had 2 goals, 7 on the board at three-quarter time and belatedly kicked 8 goals to add some respectability to the scoreline. Goals for Carlton: Henderson 2, singles for Robinson, Bell, Casbolt, Gibbs, Warnock, McLean, Everett and Garlett, and those named in the best for Carlton were Buckley, Murphy, Tui, Gibbs, White and Rowe. Guys, was it as big a smashing as it looked?
It was bigger.
Yeah, it was
The
pantsing.
scoreline flattered us like you would not believe. We didn't score for 62 minutes. Like, that's insane. What happened? I didn't see the game live, and so I knew everything that was going to happen before I actually watched it, and I forced myself to sit through it. And it was I know. That's how dedicated I am to this podcast, and then Shandog and the others don't even turn up. So, who's your favourite podcaster now? But I was sitting there.
Obviously me.
Yeah, that's not you, mate. I was sitting there, it was like a train wreck. I couldn't look away. It was ridiculous. They were trying to play on all the time, and Collingwood's pressure's just far too good to allow that to happen. Daisy, I don't know what was happening there, but he was giggling like an awkward schoolgirl. I thought he might stand up to all the boos and that sort of thing and want to prove himself, but it was almost the exact opposite. He kind of didn't know what to do with himself, and he shanked it every time he got near the ball, and he was really awkward trying to push Pendlebury around, and it just didn't do it for me. It was pretty atrocious. I think the scoreline certainly flattered us with those 8 late goals. Maybe Collingwood took their foot off the pedal, I'm not sure. I think the only positives probably were Buckley. He's always a positive for me, especially this year. White was the only Carlton player to get a vote. Rowe did well, but apart from that, I mean, you could throw a blanket over all of them and just say they were all shit, really. I don't know why you throw a blanket over them, actually, but whatever works.
Some sort of secret desire is going out.
Maybe I will.
Oh, look.
Yeah, I thought Murphy did alright. He had no supporting cast in the middle, but he kept trying, whereas in previous games this year, when we looked very uncompetitive, we could say that he didn't stand up and try and drag the rest of the team with him. Put in a fair amount of effort, but no one was there to help him out in the midfield. It was fairly terrible. No one was running to make space again. No game plan works if you're just dawdling it up the ground and then, hey look, there's no options to kick to because the opposition's already set up their zone and we can't get through it now. Like, I don't know what they were expecting to happen. Can't really judge the forwards games because they barely got it touched. Dylan Buckley was great again. White did really well. Rowe did really well. Even Jamison didn't do too badly, but with the amount of times the ball was coming in, really, of course they're going to be the players of ours to get named in the best. It was down there all the time.
Look, I agree with what you've been saying about we lacked run in the side, and we did try to play on at different points, but we were playing on when we did try to generate the run and play on quickly. We were doing it at the wrong times when we were already under pressure. So we really missed the run of Yaron. And there wasn't too many. There's not too many that can actually break the lines and get something started like he has been doing. Another positive, I like the look of Sam Doherty in his first game in the navy blue colours. I think he looked like he had a lot of poise.
How could I forget Sam? He did do well.
Well, how could maybe forget Sam?
I know. I just want to keep him to myself, so I don't want to bring your attention to him.
He looked very smooth, didn't he?
Doesn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He looked super smooth.
He's like most players coming back from injury or trying to get used to AFL pace again. His first possession went a bit askew. I think he turned it directly over after running out of heavy traffic. He kicked it straight to the Collingwood player in the corridor, who ran it back in for a goal.
Yeah.
But after you can sort of forgive that. First game back in a while, new club.
Yeah. I feel like I'd forgive Sam Doherty quite a bit. If you know what I'm saying.
One thing for anyone listening that was actually there, the noise when Dale Thomas got the free kick, and it took the Collingwood supporters a couple of seconds to realise who was taking the free kick, was just astonishing. It sounded like, because I was sitting on level 2, you heard the Collingwood supporters sort of pipe up and start booing almost violently at him, and then the Carlton supporters thinking, "No, yeah, let's rub it in." So then they started cheering, and then it was at one point, just before he took the kick, Carlton supporters were cheering like we just kicked a match-winning goal after the siren, and the Collingwood supporters were booing like an umpire had personally reversed the point that won a game for them. It was just a really loud, strange noise to hear that many people cheering and booing at once.
Yeah, funny start to the game. I mean, we started the game with Robinson taking a hanger, early goal, and then Thomas shanked that next opportunity, and that was pretty much the end of the game for us, right there. So promising beginning, and nothing after that.
Oh, you forgot Casbolt. He actually scored.
Casbolt kicked a goal. Yeah, that's right.
He kicked the point right after Thomas.
Oh,
and I was
right.
like, wow, not out on the full.
Yeah. He actually kicked the goal. He actually had one online during the night too. But Casbolt, he's a contested marking machine, and
he does well.
His kicking's not great at goal, but around the ground, he's actually getting around a fair bit, and I don't mind him as a backup ruck, even though he doesn't get any hit outs. I note that we were smashed in contested possessions and tackles, and like I said in those games those 2 weeks where we had won, and we're doing very well in those two areas. And if you're first to the ball, if you're winning those contested possessions, but then you've also got more tackles than the opposition, and it can only come down to work rate. I don't think our work rate was as bad as the previous couple of days against Essendon and Melbourne where we lost. I don't think it was that bad, but obviously it was lacking compared to Collingwood. So we did slip away, and you can't help but wonder with this side. It's mentally fragile, and you can't help but wonder whether they get it. They have a couple of wins, they think they're back on track, and then they just expect it to happen for them again, and nobody puts in the work rate they were the previous fortnight. So, we're so hot and cold, it's ridiculous.
I was pretty disappointed in Garlett. I forgot to mention earlier, his complete lack of regard for blocking for Gibbs was pretty obvious. And I think he got flamed by Parkin on radio as well for that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, he was well held by Marley Williams, who basically got a free pass back into the Collingwood side because they don't discipline their players that much. But anyway, that's one for their podcast and then them to worry about. But he's well held by Williams. We had Jared Waite and Andrew Carazzo were late replacements. Were replaced late by Doherty and Tom Bell, who surprisingly has come back after what did he miss? One game with his broken finger. That was a bit of a.
Well, word on the street was that he didn't want to play and that he wasn't confident in his hand at all. So I don't know why you would rush somebody back like that.
No.
If we're that desperate, like we've got bigger problems than what I thought, if we're that desperate that we have to bring someone back who's got a broken bone and has only had a week off.
I read a stat on the boards that Carlton had 13 late changes in 7 games. And the team with the next most was 3. I don't know if that's completely accurate, but 13 late changes in 7 games. Are we just playing games? Well, surely we know these guys. Are we carrying that many niggles that we're playing unfit games every game, unfit guys every game? Or are we just playing games we know somebody's going to be a late omission and thinking that we're actually putting one over on the opposition? Because we're not in a position to put anything over on anybody. So it's a bit bizarre, that stat.
Yeah. Just quick on work rate that you brought up before with the tackles. I think from between the West Coast game to the Collingwood game, our tackle count dropped off from about 70 to 40. Is a difference there.
That's huge.
Yeah, and Collingwood had the ball a lot more than West Coast did.
Yeah. No, and it really showed. We just had no idea. But as I said, it rather looked like we weren't trying. It kind of looked like we were a little bit worn out. And I really do think we're the walking wounded. You know, we've used more players than anybody. 33 players we've used this year. That's you're not in 7 games. You know, that's a lot of extra players to have used. It's a lot of changes every single week. So we're missing Judd, Waite, Carazzo, Yaron, Curnow, Cruiser, and Allard from that game. So we've still got something to look forward to. Albeit we shouldn't be counting on Judd, Waite, and Carazzo for too much longer. But we were dominated by the likes of Dwyer, Langdon, Elliott, Frost, Witts. All the Collingwood young guys. Absolutely had blinders out there. So. I don't know. There's really not a lot of excuses.
Yeah, Warnock didn't do too badly. The times I saw him tap it down and have to rove it himself because no one was putting in the effort at his feet to get to the ball.
Yeah, but Collingwood won.
The guy's 200 centimetres. He was dead on his feet by half time because he had to do that much extra work.
Mm. Yeah, but Collingwood won the taps as well, so you don't see a Warnock-led ruck division losing the taps too much to a couple of kids, really, Grundy and Witts. So I'm not sure what to take out of it. Just as an aside, during the week, Bryce Gibbs has restated his desire to stay at Carlton. He talked about how Melbourne's been his home for 8 years and he's settled there. And if I can quote him, he said, regarding the speculation about whether Carlton are better off maybe letting him go free agency and getting an early draft pick to help them rebuild. He said, everyone is entitled to their opinion and that is fine, but a lot of those people aren't around the inner sanctum of the footy club and don't have a full understanding of what is going on, so their opinions are irrelevant in my book. So that's a pretty forceful statement there.
It's pretty pointed, but I'm still quite reserved about it because remember last year Daisy came out and said, kids, don't throw away your number 13 Guernseys yet. So I'm just very reserved when it comes to free agency, and I kind of don't trust anybody.
Yeah,
fair
enough.
Sorry?
You've been burned by it before.
I've been burnt by it a couple of times now.
Awkward.
Moving right along.
I reckon he'll stay. I've been fairly confident about this one all year. I reckon he's going to stay.
Yeah, he's not. That's a fairly definitive statement. He's not hedging his bets too much on that. He's just saying he'll get it done. and he wishes it was done already.
It's different to I'll probably be there. I might be there, or I'm putting contract talks off.
Yeah,
I'm staying.
Yeah.
Well, what do you guys think of the rumour that other people's contracts have been put on hold until we secure Gibbs? As in, Yaren's contract has been put on hold.
Yeah, well, that probably makes sense because, Yaren's in better form this year. He might be looking for a pay rise. Jamison, I don't think, is going to be looking for too much of a bump. And who's the other one that's Waite's? I think Waite has signed for another year, has he? Or he's
talking about another year, I think.
Yeah, he's just going to be a year-to-year proposition.
He must be year-to-year, surely.
Yeah, and he's not going to be holding out for big dollars at all. Yaren is an obvious one that would be waiting to see how much is left, and I suspect we're going to look to see if we can get somebody else over the off season, whether it be through trade or something else, and we want to keep a little bit of money in reserve. So yeah, and Gibbs was quiet again on the weekend. He's inconsistent. He's up and down, and I don't know. Maybe he makes these statements about wanting to stay every time he has a bad one and his dollar value goes down with other clubs. I'm not sure. Is that cynical? It might be cynical. I don't know.
I was just thinking that is quite cynical, but yeah, it kind of makes sense when you think about it.
Moving right along, and now it's time for Boardwalk. Yes, it's Boardwalk time again. That time where we take a look at what the posters are saying on the board, and always after a loss there's a little bit going on the Carlton BigFooty Blues board. I just wanted to make the announcement that the couple of awards that we had up for grabs last week have been decided. The poster of the month for April was Haka. And
very well deserved.
Yes, and
yeah, good work, Parks.
Happy dude's not happy. His campaigning fell short.
Maybe you should campaign harder next time.
Oh well, I'll campaign as hard as I like, but Harker is very deserving. Not too cut up about that one. Well done, Harker.
And for Collingwood fans, Gone Critical has won the Didaka Award for the second time. So. Well done to him. Look, in my threads that I noticed, there were a lot of old threads were bumped, particularly Kane Lucas' thread. That got a fair workout during the week as people fairly tore into Kane Lucas. But it's not a new thread. We just keep rebumping the same old negative threads when we have a loss. So, but the best new thread of the week, in my view, was started by a former podcast regular, Just a Battler. It's called Glass Half Empty, and it seems our old mate Jab has had an epiphany of sorts and has decided to not be so negative towards individual players. That was a breath of fresh air, and Jab, if we had a prize for the best reinvention of the week, you, my friend, would have won it. So instead, accept our plaudits and admiration for what they are worth. Did anyone see that thread? I think maybe you saw that thread.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, I knew you'd be right up your alley.
It made me smile.
Yeah,
I feel like I have.
I found myself. Yeah, no, I found myself agreeing with a lot of what Jab's had to say this season since the Malthouse has come in and taken over and whatnot. Yeah, we seem to be sharing the same views on where the club's going and how it's actually going to take some work. But this is how it's going to be as long as now they seem to be on the right track. Yeah. It's better than just treading water. Like, we have to go through this to improve, and that's where I think we're headed.
I agree. Look, another worthy post that I saw was from Stig O'Hara. He gets a mention a little bit, where he noted, just before the weekend was over, before the final games were over, that we were still only a game in percentage outside of the 8, and he pondered the likelihood of 6 wins being needed to make the 8. That's another numbers classic.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, that's, there's a positive slant on
Who
it.
invited this guy?
It could happen.
Yeah, we could win 6 games. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we
Yeah,
might.
but I'm not doubting us winning 6 games. I'm doubting us getting in on 6 games.
Hey, is it a possibility?
Imagine winning a flag with only winning 10 games for the season.
Fitzroy did it back in 19...
Yeah, when they finished up last.
Yeah, so yeah, whatever it was. It was in the 19 teens.
There were only 4 teams, weren't there?
Yeah, and they finished last. Everyone got to play finals, and they had a form reversal.
See, that could happen to us.
It could happen to us. Yeah, I mean,
Stick back, guys.
you never know how many teams might be excluded from finals for peptides or something this year. Just wherever there's a will, there's a way. We'll just go.
Yeah.
I think our chance to pull a miracle out was last year, and we did it. We had the chance to knock Richmond out from 9th, and we took it.
Yeah, look, all we have to do is get some good gear ourselves and start planting it around various clubs and phone in the dog.
If they need a plant, I'm happy to take that responsibility.
Yeah, well, I'm here on the Gold Coast, so I can take care of the Suns because they look like they might make the finals.
Yep.
Anybody else see any threads worth mentioning on the boards?
Only ones that made me mad, so probably not.
So you'll let those go.
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along. Carlton play St Kilda at Etihad on Monday night. Anybody have any thoughts on what we need to do to win that one? In my estimation, maybe Waite, Yaron, Allard and Carazzo are chances to come back this week.
Yeah, they're all listed as tests, aren't they? So that means they're at least out for another 2 or 3, judging by by the Carlton medical team. Clash of the Titans this week. Us coming off a brilliant form showing against Collingwood, and St Kilda an even better form showing against the Hawks.
Yeah.
Both teams will be out for redemption. They're a bit of a bogey side for us, which always makes me nervous. I really dislike St Kilda. I think it's just more the younger generation in me. I find a lot of people around my age really dislike St Kilda, whereas the older people around my mum's age sort of still have that that feeling towards them about them being just crap all the time, and almost feeling a bit sorry for them. But I hope we bury them. I wouldn't be surprised to see us come out and win by about 30 points. I wouldn't be surprised to see us fall over and then win by about 20. It could go either way. As long as we put in effort, lay more than 40 freaking tackles, and run to give each other space and shepherd each other. If we put in a team effort and we still lose, then I'll at least have something to be positive about.
Yeah, I mean, Saints lost by 145 points on the weekend. I mean, so you'd think that they're going to cop a bit of stick and they might fire up a little bit. That was fairly embarrassing. But look, let's face it. I mean, at different times of Friday night, we look like we could get blown away by 100 at different times, and instead, we plugged away, or Collingwood stopped and we plugged away, whereas Hawthorn kept their foot on the pedal and St Kilda gave up. So we could easily be talking about similar margins this week if it wasn't for those I guess sliding door moments of each game. So we've both got a lot to prove. St Kilda have got a few injuries themselves, and I think they lost Gary on the weekend, and he's a reasonable player. I'm not really sure. Obviously we've got to look out for Rewald. We have somebody run with Montagna. He's getting a bit of the ball, and I think Reece Stanley is sitting about 4th for contested marks. So just make sure that see where he's going to play and who's going to stop him. But really, after the Collingwood game, I wasn't really looking forward to doing a preview of the Saints game, because who knows who the hell's going to show up for this game. If Carlton was showing up and we were 100% consistent in our application and our effort, you'd be able to start talking tactics. But with Carlton, it's not about tactics, it's not about matchups, it's about what's happening between the ears, and God knows.
But the same can be said for St Kilda too. Like, it depends which St Kilda team turns up, the one that played against Essendon or the one that just got spanked by Hawthorn. And I hate St Kilda's stinking guts. So for the love of God, just freaking win. I'm so over losing to them on Monday nights. It's the worst time slot, and it's such a terrible game normally. Censored. It's normally such a terrible game that it's just miserable. So can we please just turn up to win?
Yeah.
Put in the effort, and that would be great. Thanks, Blues.
All right. The kids playing along at home maybe meant to say shit.
I was trying to
Screw your
avoid
sensitism.
Shih Tzu puppies. No, anyway. Yeah, look, there's not a lot to say about it. There's not a lot to talk about matchups wise. St Kilda do have a probably on paper a weaker lineup. Carlton should be winning it, but yeah, shoulda, coulda, woulda. It doesn't happen for us when we think it should. So we'll find out. Look, Monday night is usually our weekend wake where we discuss the previous game. Obviously, that's not going to happen because the previous game wouldn't have happened yet. Go figure that out.
We're not staying up that late.
No, we're not. So we'll only be doing the one podcast again next week, and that'll just be a quick review of whatever news and the Saints game, whatever happens there, and we have the bye following that, so we probably won't have another podcast until the following Thursday. So little slim pickings at the moment, but you're probably going to be glad to get a break from us. So
No, I'll miss you guys.
yeah.
Hopefully more Carlton players show up on Monday than what we had show up for the podcast tonight.
Oh, look, there might be something really exciting happening in the game. We might, something to talk about, and we might want to make 5 podcasts out of it. But, time will tell. Anybody else have anything they want to have a chat about before we go?
I've got a public service announcement.
Of course you do. Hang on.
Oh, yes.
Ding, ding,
You need to play that.
ding.
Ding,
Hang on.
ding,
We should make a mention of Tony Lynn 15 actually posting a whole list of train station announcement beeps just for Mabby's benefit. And I think Thylacine 60, sorry, sponsored by Thylacine 60. I think he picked out the one that he liked out of that. Yes, go ahead with the public service announcement.
All I was going to say is that you can vote for Mitch Robinson in Mark of the Week. If you go onto the AFL website, vote for him, and at least we get something good out of that awful, awful game.
Do we deserve to get anything good out of that game?
Oh, he took a good mark. Credit where it's due.
He deserves the mark.
Yeah.
Isn't he up against one of Travis Cloke's crappy efforts?
Yeah, but overall, sorry, and with apologies to Simon White, he deserves a lot out of that because it's probably the first time he's been our best on ground.
Your whites may be white, but our whites are better.
No, as I said, I said with white on white, we're probably not going to see them at all, but we did. We saw our white. He was blanketing the other white.
I'm confused, and my head hurts.
Get your whites whiter. Hang on, there's another product endorsement coming up.
Oh, here we go.
No.
He really gave him a soaking.
Oh, no.
Nah, sorry, this is why we need a buy from the podcast as well.
Exactly.
Because we're like scraping the bottom of the pun barrel over here.
We certainly are.
Whiteboards are remarkable, aren't they?
Let's go. Nah, I'm done.
Come back, Shandog, all is forgiven.
Please, Chandog, I need you.
Help.
You're my only hope.
Save us, Obi-Wan.
It reminds me of, what's her name on the Norman Gunston show when he was getting at her and she just starts going, help.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Any other older people that would have watched it back in the day.
All right, ODN to the rescue, folks. Good night, Happy Dude.
Good night.
Good night, Mevy.
See you guys.
And good night from me. We'll see you next week. Go the Blues.
Never had to lie bed a night on wood, 'cause I know someone who has, which makes me wonder if I could. It makes me wonder if I never had to lie bed a night on wood, 'cause I'm sure it isn't good, and I'm glad I haven't yet. That's the impression that I